Good morning, boys. Now the next chapter is marine process and associated landform. This is chapter number 15. Now, in the previous class, we did the alien process and the associated landforms. Now that chapter number 12 and chapter number 15 will also be diagram-based questions. So it means that you need to give emphasis, especially on the diagrams as well as the reason for its formation. But before we continue with the landform, let us just make some brief introduction about the marine process or about the sea waves, how these sea waves are responsible for the formation of different types of landforms. Now, if you look at here, there is a small sketch which I have made. Clear? Now, this is the movement of the sea waves. Now, whenever the sea wave it moves towards the prevailing direction of the wind. Now, the sea waves comes into existence because of the prevailing wind, resulting in the formation of sea waves. Now, if you look at the sea waves, the upper part of the sea wave is called as crest. The upper part of the sea wave is called as the crest. Clear? And the distance between the two crests, is known as wavelength. It is known as the wavelength. The crest is the upper part of the sea wave and the lower part of the sea wave is called as a trough. Remember this. Upper part of the sea wave is called as the crest and the lower part of the sea wave is called as a trough, and the distance between the two crests is called as a wavelength. Now these sea waves comes into existence because of the prevailing wind. Whenever the wind blows over the sea or the ocean, the friction comes into existence. So because of the friction of the wind, the sea water is dragged under the wind, resulting in the formation of sea waves. Now, there are a few important points which we need to discuss. First, the coast. Now, what is the sea coast? Now, sea coast means those part of land which faces the sea. Means the land which is facing towards the sea is called as a sea coast. Next, shore. Now, shore means that part of land which has a close contact with sea. It means that the high tide and the low tide. During the high tide and the low tide, when the water is in a close contact with the land, that portion of area is called as a shore. Next, backshore. Backshore means when the advancing sea wave reaches towards the land. Means that whenever the sea waves strikes at the coast or the shore, when it moves towards because it has its own potential energy. As it has its own potential energy, as it moves forward, that area is called as a backshore. Next is foreshore. Now foreshore means those land which is permanently under water. Now these foreshore you will find very much close to the beach, where those land is completely under the water. Now, sea waves as an agent of erosion. Now, how the sea waves it acts as a erosional tool, resulting in the formation of different types of landforms. The first one is hydraulic action. Now, hydraulic action means to pick up loose materials by the sea waves. It means that whenever the sea wave from the ocean or from the sea, it moves towards the land, it picks up fine loose particles, and those fine loose particles may either be sand, or it might be a smaller pebbles, or it might be a bigger boulders of rocks, depending upon the velocity or the speed of the wind and the sea wave. Next, abrasion. Now, abrasion means when the sea waves is armed with the rock fragments and they strike against the sea cliff. Whenever those picked up materials, whenever the sea waves is armed with those loose materials and strike against the sea cliff, that is known as abrasion. Attrition. The tool of the sea waves strike against each other. It means that those fine particles or those coarse particles or the coarse sediments which strikes against each other, resulting in further reduction of the shape and size as well as the change in the shape, is known as the attrition. Next, solution. Solution means there are different types of soluble minerals. There are different types of soluble minerals such as like limestone, salt, which can dissolve easily in the water. So when they dissolve, they start to erode or they start losing its shape as well as its size, and that is called as solution. Now let us move on with the next, that is the features formed by sea waves. Now I've already told you that whenever sea waves has enough velocity, which is armed with many materials which has been picked up on its path, clear, and when those picked up materials strike against the land, it results in the formation of different types of landforms. The first one is the sea cliff. Now if you look at this sea cliff, now what is a sea cliff? Sea cliff means that particular coast which is facing the sea. That particular coast or the particular land which is facing towards the sea is known as a sea cliff. Now this sea cliff comes into existence when the base of the cliff is further eroded. The base of the cliff is further eroded due to continuous striking by the sea wave with the tools of erosion. And when the continuous erosion takes place at the base of the sea cliff, it is known as notch. It is known as a notch. It means that the particular area which has been eroded by the sea wave is called as a notch. Now, the overhanging rock falls into the sea and forms a sea cliff. Now listen, as the sea water moves towards the land, as it moves towards the land, it attacks the base of the land. As it starts to erode the base of the land, the base starts to get eroded. The base starts to get eroded, and the water, it starts to move towards inland. And the water of the sea or the ocean, it starts to move towards the inland. As it starts moving inland, the lower portion or the base of the cliff gets completely eroded, resulting in the formation of notch. As there is no base for this portion of land which is hanging above the surface. As it is hanging above the surface, because of the gravity, this portion, it falls down. The portion falls down, resulting in the formation of a sea cliff, and the water enters inland, resulting in the formation of a sea cliff. Next is sea caves. Now sea caves comes into existence especially on the soft rock, because the soft rock gets eroded much more quickly than the hard rock. Now especially along the coast of the sea, we may find joints and cracks. Especially along the wall of the cliff. And these cracks and the joints, it acts as one of the major source for getting further eroded by the sea waves. So what happens is that the sea waves starts to strike especially the joints and the cracks. As this joints and cracks is further attacked by the sea waves, armed by the tool of erosion, this joints and cracks become further enlarged. As it becomes further enlarged, it results in the formation of a sea caves. Next, marine arch or natural bridge. Now, marine arch or natural bridge comes into existence when the sea caves from the opposite direction are able to cut through the caves. It means that when the sea waves are able to cut the sea caves from the opposite direction, when the sea caves is being cut or eroded from the opposite direction by the help of the sea waves, it results in the formation of a marine arch. Next, stack. And this marine arch or natural bridge comes into existence when the upper part of the land is made up of hard rock. Because if it is a soft rock, then even the soft rock will get further eroded, resulting in not forming marine arch for the natural bridge. And this hard rock, it acts as a bridge to connect from point X to point Y. Therefore, it is referred as a natural bridge. Next is stack. When the roof of the marine arch collapses, when the roof of this marine arch collapses as the time passes by, it results the remaining part of that land to remain in the form of a pillar, and this pillar is known as a stack. And further, when these stacks get eroded due to continuous erosion by the sea waves, and when the height of the stack gets reduced, it results in the formation of stumps. It means that the stumps means those part of the stack which is always under the water, and further it may be get eroded due to the action of sea waves.